And hi gang, I'm MyRadar meteorologist Matthew Cappucci. Today I want to talk about gravity waves, not the kind of gravitational waves you might hear about in outer space, but gravity waves in our atmosphere. Believe it or not, the atmosphere is a fluid, just like water, soup, or any kind of liquid you deal with, and it behaves in very similar ways. Waves in the atmosphere come in all shapes and sizes. Some have very long periods and small amplitudes and kind of manifest as pockets of thunderstorms that orbit around the tropics. We call those the Madden-Julian oscillation. Other waves are very small, almost like ripples in a pond. Today we're talking about gravity waves, which form as a result of density differences in the atmosphere. Density is related to air pressure, temperature, and humidity. Density is a measure of how much mass is in a unit volume. In calm environments characterized by nice weather, the atmosphere is stratified or layered. That means all of its layers kind of settle atop one another based on density. It's the same premise as, say, Italian salad dressing, for example. The vinegar, the water, the oils, they all settle out based on their density. That's why you have to shake the salad dressing before using it. Sometimes in the atmosphere, something happens that upsets these layers and you get waves as a result. Once in a while, we can see these waves. You see, when air rises from a moisture layer below, the moisture it contains condenses in the cooler air aloft. That forms a cloud. When that air sinks, it dries up and the cloud suddenly disappears and kind of shredded away. The first really cool type of wave is the mountain wave. It happens when air is artificially forced up a mountain, perhaps by strong winds, goes up the mountain, it cools, condenses, forms a cloud, then starts to sink and then goes back up again as it warms up and kind of goes up and down, bobbing like a bobber in a pond. If you're a nerdy atmospheric scientist like me, you can use something called the Brunt-Weissler frequency to calculate the rate at which these oscillations occur, basically how long it takes for a parcel of air to go up and down. For our intents and purposes, don't worry about any crazy math. Just let's estimate this around, say, 10 minutes or so. Mountain waves can be very annoying for aviation, causing changes in air density, wind speed, and direction. That leads to big-time turbulence, and sometimes aviation weather centers like National Weather Service actually have to outline little areas where planes should try to avoid if they can. We can see these mountain waves through something called rotor clouds. They look like long strips of alternating cloud cover in clear sky. In September of 2020, a major windstorm brought gusts up to 100 miles per hour in the Wasatch Mountains of Utah as a result of these waves just north of Salt Lake City. Eyewitnesses said you could actually hear the sound of these waves descending down the mountains, accompanying really cool, dense air sliding downhill. In just the right environment, you can even get standing waves that actually remain in place for an extended period of time. We're talking up to an hour or more. Here's a really cool time lapse I shot last year. Other times we get gravity waves that are spurred by distant weather systems that feature updrafts and downdrafts. Here's an example I shot on a flight over Wisconsin. You can see the layered environment bowing up and down with those gravity waves. On December 17, 2020, a wild snowstorm in the Northeast from an offshore bomb cyclone produced gravity waves that were strong enough to induce their own snow squalls over parts of Connecticut, Long Island, and eastern New York State. Look in the left in this image. They actually produce decently heavy snow up to 1.5 inches of accumulation. You can also get waves resulting from something called an undulate bore, like a series of tidal wavelets in the atmosphere that can oftentimes follow a cold front. Perhaps the most striking waves are the ones that occur in the anvil of thunderstorms. When a storm's updraft is strong enough, it has so much vertical momentum that even when its density says it should be lower, it can't really slam the brakes on in time to stop. That means it punches up above the rest of the cloud and forms what we call an overshooting top. That sparks ripples that kind of radiate outwards. Here are a few examples from various thunderstorms, like this one from the 140-mile-per-hour Iowa derecho of August 10, 2020. You can get basically the same thing during hurricanes too. Here's Category 4 Sam from late September. See if you can spot a few gravity waves near the center, rippling outwards. The same phenomenon can even occur around volcanoes, like during the recent eruption of a volcano on La Palma in the Canary Islands. This is an amazing shot showing kind of a target-like ring of clouds rippling outwards. Perhaps the most fun meteorologically is when gravity waves from different sources interact to produce trippy, psychedelic interference patterns. That results in chaotic constructive and destructive interference and produces asperitas or asperatus undularis clouds. And these are oftentimes found along warm fronts.
Follow MyRadar on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Download MyRadar on iOS, Android, Amazon Alexa, Xbox, and Windows.